Bong Joon-ho's Parasite is a virtually perfect film on every level. On the surface, its technical execution is so precise and immaculate that it's hard to notice the film's greatest achievement hiding underneath: the screenplay. For Bong, who has written every single film in his career, Parasite is essentially a culmination of everything he's learned over the years. But in its more than 2 hours of runtime, there is a single moment that truly exemplifies his genius. A sequence that transforms Parasite into cinematic perfection. Like all great stories, Parasite has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yet, it never quite follows the usual 3-act structure we're familiar with. Instead, the film plays a lot like 2 separate movies that are joined into one. The first film deals with the 2 families, the impoverished Kims who plan to infiltrate the wealthy Parks by each posing as a tutor, a driver, and a housekeeper. But it creates an odd moment in the story about 50 minutes in, after the Kims have removed all of the existing employees to essentially take over the house. Suddenly, there's no conflict left to carry the film, and the story comes to a literal stop. But it's the sequence that bridges the end of the first film to the unexpected second, where Bong stages his attack. Let's take a look.
아버지, 제가 특별히 하나 더 섞어드리겠습니다.
나름 운치가 있네. 정원에는 비가 우린 위스키를.
Bong begins the sequence by visually establishing the Kims' false sense of success, having dedicated an entire previous sequence to show the Kims reaping the rewards of their scheme. But he does it most effectively with a simple parallel image, using a window, a motif of luxury that was introduced earlier in the film. The Kims, who had previously been subjected to the views of ordinary life outside their basement apartment, discover privacy as a form of luxury. Yet, despite all of this, their success is only downplayed by their dialogue, which emphasizes just how far they are from it.
솔직히 이 돈이 다 나한테 있었어 뭐. 나는 더 착하지.
Bong keeps the dialogue engaging by faking out 3 moments of tension that gradually build over time. These moments are known as beats in a dialogue. Each beat organically interrupts and changes the flow and the topic of conversation.
야, 제시카, 건배.
Until it seemingly explodes on the 3rd beat.
왜 그래요?
진짜.
아버지, 안 돼요. 죽어요.
아 뭐야?
속았지? 속았지?
아버지도 참.
기우야, 너도 속았지? 리얼하지 않냐, 안 그래?
It's no coincidence that this doorbell marks the exact midpoint of the screenplay, appearing on page 71 out of a 141-page script. It's a sound that signifies the end of the first film and what Bong refers to as the real start of the film.
누구세요?
밤늦은 시간에 정말 대단히 죄송합니다. 다른 건 아니고요. 제가 부엌 지하실에 제 물건을 깜빡 놔두고 온 게 있어가지고요.
It's a brilliantly foreboding moment after a series of peaceful sequences. The audience is aware that something is about to go wrong. They just aren't sure what it is. This is probably the best moment to talk about the films that inspired Parasite. Bong has mentioned several, and the most obvious is Kim Gi-young's 1960 film The Housemaid, which features a similar story about a poor maid infiltrating the rich. But thematically, its most interesting inspiration comes from Akira Kurosawa's 1963 film High and Low, one of the first films that used height as a visual representation of class, with the rich towering above and the poor living underneath. Parasite expands upon this idea through another visual motif introduced earlier: stairs. On second viewing, it's incredible to see how vertical the film is, right from its opening image. Whenever a character climbs a flight of stairs, it's a visual symbol of the rise in the social class, while the walk down suggests the opposite. Just like the window, it's this very sequence where Bong starts to take advantage of all the visual concepts he set up earlier. And it's the reason why we feel so uneasy in a moment like this.
같이 내려가 보시겠어요?
아 저기 빨리 갔다 오지.
The film that most heavily inspired Parasite is probably Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. The two films share a surprising number of similarities. Both mainly feature a house that almost becomes a character itself, the architecture guiding the film and sometimes hiding the truth in plain sight on another level. And most importantly, the game-changing twist midway was also done most popularly by Hitchcock in Psycho, who killed his main character exactly halfway through the film. What makes the twist in Parasite so great is that it's as predictable as it is impossible to see coming. The basement in question is featured only twice in the film, for less than a minute, before its actual role is revealed. But it's a twist that doesn't feel out of question, as we've seen it happen already, just through the eyes of another family. The truth finally reveals itself, and Bong expertly reveals the twist strictly from the Kim's perspective through a handheld camera. As the lighting, camera, tempo, and even the genre of the film changes, what awaits at the end of the tunnel is an entirely different film, all in 10 minutes of a sequence. What makes Parasite so perfect is that it understands the rules and power of storytelling. Everything on screen has a specific purpose and a meaning that transforms the story as it unpacks. And it's ironic that as brilliant as Bong's plan for the story is, the genius of Parasite lies in the 10-minute sequence, where an entire plan is demolished on sight.
절대 실패하지 않는 계획이 만조라네. 무계획이야, 무계획.